Okay, welcome to Into the Channel podcast, primarily about women's football. I am your host, Dean of Desesperus, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Grant Engel. What's up, man?
I'm feeling all right, buddy. That was there were some things to take away from that football match. I'll say one early takeaway: I didn't expect the OK to be that long. Usually, the length of the OK is usually commensurate with the level of excitement. I'm glad to see you're this excited about the show tonight.
I figured 1 second per goal, and I think we came in right around that. So a little spoiler alert, US got busy tonight. We'll get into it. But with that said, yeah, pretty much just one match on the docket. So this should be no more than a formality. Mr. Grant Engel, where you want to get started?
Yeah, I mean, weren't able to watch the friendly between Sweden and Norway. Unfortunately, not broadcast anywhere we could watch in the US of A. So how about we start with United States of America 4, Republic of Ireland 0.
I'm with it. Let's do it. So take people behind the curtain. We're recording a little bit later. I got a late start, so I just finished watching the match. I haven't had a chance to take in any of the internet activity, any of the post-game pressers. I'm still trying to figure out where I land with regard to, you look at some of the stats. I think it's 26 shots attempted to 1 for Ireland. So right off the bat, you can kind of see the disparity between these two teams. But on the same note, I thought there was some really good moments from the U.S. I think we continue to see some of that evolution of the attack. We're seeing a lot of diversity. We're seeing shots taken from different angles. We're seeing different combinations we've never seen before. So I don't know. Am I at risk of looking too much into some of these positive outcomes, or is this just the first ranked team versus the 25th, 26th ranked team, and this was just basically par for the course? What should be the takeaway?
I think it's okay to have the takeaways of there were things that really went well, and they should have gone well because this is the number 1 ranked FIFA team versus the number 25 ranked FIFA team. And just as we go through this, I'm going to use some terminology here, and I don't mean any disrespect to the Republic of Ireland. No Katie McCabe, no Denise O'Sullivan. So nobody came into this match thinking that this was going to be level terms in the scope of talent on the field. But I think it's okay to be like, hey, there were things that happened that were really good for USA. Are they going to be able to do those things against the elite teams of the world all the time? Maybe not, but probably should be able to some of the time.
I think so. And I think before we get into it, let's cheers to a good performance. Independent of the competition. They went out and did their thing, and I'm happy about that.
That's what you got to do.
Cheers. Just out here doing what we got to do.
Cheers to you. Yeah, exactly. And I'll say, when I say some of the terms that I'm going to use, and again, I mean this with no disrespect to Ireland, it was an ass kicking, and it probably should have been an ass kicking. They come over here, they got to play in the altitude and go up against this team full of young stars who are all fighting for spots on one of the most competitive teams in the world. There really weren't many other ways this was supposed to go.
No, total arse kicking. You look at some of the makeup. This wasn't the fastest team that we've seen Emma Hayes put forward, right? But I think physically, this was just a really powerful team. You watch, whether it's Avery Patterson or Claire Hutton or Sam Coffey or Emily Sonnet, when the ball gets struck, these passes have such weight to them. These runs have such thunder to them. I think it really put Ireland on notice. The other thing I picked up on pretty early was the U.S.'s interest in putting diagonal balls over the top, but not the looping balls over the top. They were kind of these stinging aerial balls, designed to kind of switch field really quickly. And in a couple spots, they went left to right to then back left, whether it was with 1 pass or 2 passes. They just made Ireland play a ton of defense, kind of going left to right, just kind of swaying in the breeze, and just really made them work. And I think it wasn't so much about, can we beat this team over the top and just have them chase us? It was let's make them work a little bit. Let's wear them out. And, we haven't seen a ton of 4-0s under Emma Hayes. So I think this a pretty encouraging scoreline for them to like really, put up goals in line with basically like the disparity between these two teams from a talent standpoint, like you were talking about.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. And I like it because, when Lily Johannes has appeared in previous matches, we talked a lot about a lot of those diagonal aerial passes, and she was, passing Michelle Cooper even further open than she usually is, passing Alyssa Thompson even further open than she usually is. It almost seemed like other players were like, hey, we want to try that too. Like we're capable of doing that too, just to, make sure that they have their spot in the rotation. I also want to comment on what you had mentioned with the physicality. This is not breaking news. We've been watching the NWSL. We've watched the Bats over there at Gotham FC. Lily Reel, 5'9", great size, physical player. I thought, in her first cap, just kind of walked out there. And, we talked about this with Carrie Abello, just another player who seems to be like, yeah, I'm here. Like, I should be wearing this crest also. And just seemed supremely confident in her first minutes with the senior national team.
Very, very cool to see Lily Rio. Yeah, Lily Rio was like, yeah, I'm here and I can do all the stuff. Like, just tell me what stuff you need and I'll do all the stuff. No problem. I think Emma Hayes was doing something really interesting early where the wingers were kind of squeezing, kind of pinching in both Alyssa Thompson and Cooper, which was just giving a lot of space to Patterson. It kind of gave Patterson and Rio on the other side the option to either stay wide or bring it in, and then there'd be the overlap. And then the other thing is like these rotations that we keep hearing about from Emma Hayes. And I think when you think about the Sam Coffey goal, the second goal, that comes from one of those double switches that I was talking about, where it goes left to right, or I'm sorry, left to right, then right back to left, and then because Sam Coffey is filling the space, right? Because all the players have kind of rotated over. She's basically like the last rotation, and then she's left there with nobody defending, which is just not what we're used to seeing. And all it comes from is just simple, sort of like connecting passes and making the defense work. Did you pick up on anything, from a passing standpoint or from a creativity standpoint? I mean, it's a very different looking U.S. attack than I think we're used to.
Yeah, I think they just showed, so we've already talked about some of those diagonal aerial balls, and then you talk about kind of the swinging of some of the passes. You talk about the Coffey goal that leads to yet another big shrug from her. I think Julie Foudy on the broadcast referred to it as the "why not" celebration, which I kind of like, reminiscent of Joey Bosa for Ohio State Buckeyes, like when they won that national championship. He used to just maul the quarterback and then get up and do a shrug, which I think is kind of funny.
I can see Sam Coffey being the Joey Bosa of the U.S. national. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, just not injury prone. No offense to Joey Bosa, obviously he's a legend, but that Coffey goal too. You talk about the swinging nature of it. As soon as the ball gets to Thompson, Coffey knows how open she's going to be. Thompson knows how open she's going to be. And, she's kind of over, if I remember it correctly, she's like over Thompson's left shoulder. And it's just like she knew where Coffey was going to be running into that space. And it's just kind of an easy goal. And like when you have talked about in the past few episodes, some of the key pieces of this squad moving forward, building that chemistry, I think it's pretty obvious one to point to. Alyssa Thompson, Sam Coffey, in Sharpie, no doubt, on any squad moving forward.
I'm glad you brought this up. I wrote in my notes. I've got my little Sharpie crew here because, I mean, I know that, we're in Emily Fox territory, and they mentioned on the broadcast, all right, Avery Patterson, can she play on the right or left? Play both, whatever, et cetera. They had a good chuckle about that. But Avery Patterson, I mean, big chunks of this match where I'm just like, that's our best player. Like that's a player that can't do anything with her. you just can't do anything.
Yeah. The defense is in big trouble when she has the ball. She tracks back. She's smart. She's a smart defender as well. Like you were pointing out, she's incredibly dangerous on the wing. She can cut the ball in. When she cuts the ball in, she's equally dangerous. I don't know. Do you want to say it? I mean, Emily Fox plays for Arsenal. She's a Champions League winner. What do you think? Who's a better player, buddy?
I mean, why do we have to choose? I mean, these are great players. We don't really have to make that kind of decision. But I mean, Patterson's, she's got that, like she's got that air of this might be the team's best player in 3 years, 2 years. Like, I think we could be heading in that direction. But I think when you look at, like I said, Patterson, Hutton, we talk about the torture chamber of the midfield. Patterson, Hutton, Coffey is nothing you could do. Like just nothing. And then that frees up Rose Lavelle in a huge way to just be creative, be Rose Lavelle. You talked about, sort of like players like learning from other players and from some of the vets. It was so funny to see Rose Lavelle pull off a couple different back heels. And then what happens in the third goal, Claire Hutton's like, I'm going to do that. I can do that. Like, just like, my turn. All right, I'm going to move it along. And I wrote down the whole sequence of that third goal because it was just absolutely nuts. So it goes Dickey, Gurma, Sonnet, Patterson, Hutton. That's where the back heel comes in. Cooper, Setnor, Lavelle. Like, come on, man. Part of it is like Ireland just decided that they don't want to play anymore. They're just like, I don't want to run fast anymore. I'm trying to pull a muscle, but brilliant team goal. I mean, you get 7 or 8 different players touching the ball and just each of them touching it once and then just kind of moving it along. And I don't know, love that. Love those rotations. Love the ball movement.
I think that's totally fair. I just want to state this for the record, even though you're the Arsenal guy. I think today, as it stands, on June 26th, 2025, I think Emily Fox is a better player than Avery Patterson. But how long do I think that will hold? I'm not sure. Probably not crazy long. And Emily Fox is great. So I think that's good news for the U.S. women's national team. But to your point, yeah, that team goal, it's incredible. It comes shortly at comes like 8 minutes after they get out of the half. Yeah. I think players talk about it in every match, even in some of the matches where it doesn't go as well in the first half. The players always seem to talk about Emma Hayes very candidly pointing out what they could have done better in the first half and what they need to do in the second half to get a goal or more. To see Rose Lavelle walk in this match, I thought for sure, and I think they mentioned this on the broadcast too, I thought for sure she would be off at halftime because that's the most we've seen her play in the NWSL so far. I think she finally played a full half in this last match before the break. But she comes on and she gets the goal after getting the assist, which takes me to my next thing. You kind of moved past it quickly, especially, I was surprised on the first goal of the match. This is the Dino De Cespedes year of the short corner. Can we at least rewind and talk about the short corner for the opener? You were the first person I thought of when I saw that.
Yeah, no, that's my bet. And again, this is a function of having just finished watching the match. So that short corner in my mind was, it might as well have been a week ago. But right, the short corner, the first thing I remember about that one was Cooper before the corner just chasing down a ball versus nobody and running as fast as she possibly could. She reaches the ball, quick pivot, whips it back in, and the Ireland defense just doesn't know what to do with it. They kind of fumble it out, and that's how the corner comes about, literally out of a nothing hustle play from Michelle Cooper. And then Michelle Cooper, not done hustling, because she then sprints straight to the corner, and you could hear on the broadcast, short. I'm not sure. Like if you go back and check it out, you can hear it. Yeah. And they just go to Lavelle, and then Lavelle gets to walk it in another 9-10 yards and then is able to pick out Patterson from there. Until defenses start doing something about this short corner, having 2 players that are incredibly accurate from that part of the field is just going to continue to be a devastating weapon. And it's it's weird because I haven't been covering the sport long enough to sort of know all the intricacies of why the short corner pisses off so many people. But to me, it seems obvious. It's you're overloading, you're creating a mismatch, and make them stop it. And instead of taking that long corner, you're just taking one from 2/3 the distance from a better angle. And when you have a player like Rose Lavelle who can make some magic out of it, and Patterson, who fading away was able to generate power, for the finish. I mean, that's how you open a match right there.
Yeah, the way you frame it, and you framed it this way for months now, even when we would see Barcelona use the short corner, where, they'll run it with Mappy and Bonmati. And it's just like, to your point, like two just absolutely devastating passers who can also shoot and score from distance. But the term you always use that I like is you're essentially walking the ball in further. And so they're kind of like calibrating, setting it up like, okay, who's going to be open? Well, how do I want to hit this? And, Lavelle struck it so cleanly that even with Patterson kind of doing that little bit of fade away, she obviously hits it just right on her forehead, but the cross had enough pace on it to where she was able to generate enough power to get it past Brosnan. So obviously, the year of the short corner continues. I was happy to see it. Defenders still unhappy to see it. I think I saw something. I can't remember if it was one of the Neville brothers or somebody put a thing on social media of them asking Manchester United great player Paul Scholes about the short corner. And I believe his quote was, "It's shite." So Paul Scholes, not a fan of the short corner, but I will say seems to be pretty effective right now.
Yeah, I mean, Paul, I would go check out another show, my bro. I mean, this thing's effective, and maybe it's a function of the men's game versus the women's game. I'm not really. That's a little bit above my pay grade. All I know is that you could just see teams squeezing tremendous amounts of value out of this. And the crazy part is there's even a counter to the counter, because as long as Cooper can get back on side, even if you run Rose Lavelle off the ball after she's gotten that advantageous positioning, she could get it right back to Cooper, who again is in a better spot than she would have been from the corner spot. So I don't know, it could be just one of these things where the game's kind of evolving pretty quickly, or maybe the skills are at a point where now the short corner could just be something that you need to really keep employing. The other thing I think that we won't really see too much, or we won't see it all the time, was the way that Alyssa Thompson was getting defended, which was basically backpedal as furiously as you can. Yeah, keep her in front of you. And I think that the what happens then is the defense takes away some of those like shots from distance, even if you can get pace on them, because they've backed off properly, which is why we kept continuing to score off passes. We weren't scoring off just kind of like one-on-one, just cooking people out there. Again, I really love the ball movement. I love the creativity. When you have a player like Rose Lavelle, I mean, the basketball player, the comp I got for Rose was CP3. Just creative, could score, could dish, could just do anything, but ultimately can make every right decision, and then can execute once that processing power has made that decision. She could put the ball right where she's decided that it needs to go.
Yeah, I like that as a comp. And again, just good to see her out there. And then she comes back, goal and an assist, easy money for the legend coming back in.
Cincinnati. I kept thinking about it.
You know what? I was like, I think I'm going to make it my thing to start talking about what city these players are from. It's fun. I think you compared it to Musburger. I was more of a Keith Jackson guy growing up. He was fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
And he loved a "Whoa, Nelly," which I love that phrase also. Speaking of "Whoa, Nelly," though, what do you say we talk about the fourth and final goal of this match? Are you fucking kidding me with this Alyssa Thompson goal?
I mean, a player that you called out earlier, Lily Real, she wins a 49-51 ball, like showing good hustle again late in the match, puts a wicked ball up the sideline from an angle that you're just not supposed to be able to do that. And then Thompson gets that inside touch and kind of like just dances right past Stapleton and basically runs her off the frame. It was in the picture, then out of the picture, even though that shouldn't be possible. Cuts it inside and then just slaps the inside of the post. Just in a goal that was absolutely coming. You could kind of see Alyssa's hunger in this match and just be like, yeah, she was definitely looking for it. An extra breath, an extra kind of like, let me lower my heart rate another couple BPMs, just calm myself down, and then just smacked it off the like a great sound effect to hit the post.
For sure. Unbelievable, however many yards, it's like somewhere in the ballpark of like a 50-yard run at that point for her to get into, like you've been talking about it all season, all NWSL season. She's on an absolute heater. I think we had made some jokes about her national team form possibly being considered for her NWSL MVP campaign that you are the chief campaign officer for. She just continues to impress. And I think there's been some, including from me, where it's like, well, okay, do you want to play Ali Sentnor or Alyssa Thompson on the wing? And I just like the move from Emma Hayes to be like, I want to play Ali Sentnor at the 9 today and play Alyssa Thompson on the left wing. And I thought that worked. I mean, Sentnor gets the assist on the Lavelle goal, and I thought they worked in tandem pretty well. It seems like their style of play can kind of feed off each other a little bit.
Well, I think it has to do with the rotations again. So when Thompson's kind of running in, cutting in, it's not like Sentnor just stands there. Sentnor then moves on to occupy new space, and then everything just kind of happens behind. And as a defense, it's like sort of standing in the middle of the carousel, and like all the horses are just kind of like moving around. You're just like, where do I go? Like, where do you like have no idea what's going on? Right. But like, that's the beauty of it is like, and that's kind of why I thought Biondolo, and shout out to you because we picked lineups and I went back and checked. You nailed 7 of the 11. I only had 6. It came down to Claudia Dickey, so you were on point there. So you've another win for you in the Grant column. But
another or the first? I don't know where we're at there.
I mean, who's really keeping count? Maybe somebody at home is. We'll check it with the YouTube comments on that. What are you going to be looking for in the rematch in a few days here?
Moultrie comes into the match and hits just a laser off the crossbar. That was just, I couldn't believe the power. I mean, I can believe the power she generated on it, but Jesus, like that was a lot of power that she got off on that shot. So, I think she'll play more minutes. I think Mickey Owen will play more minutes, obviously. I mean, at this point, you can't put it past Hayes to almost completely rotate this squad. So this was an interesting outcome. You got to see what this group of players looked like, and then I think you're going to get a largely different mix of players and see what they look like. And by the way, there's another one of those quiet Germa matches. Granted, she didn't have to do a ton of work. So I don't know if you play McGlynn in the next Ireland match and then you go back to Dickey against Canada to see if Dickey gets tested a little more. But I think we're going to get a largely rotated squad. I don't know if you play Germa two of these matches in a row, if you just hand off the captain's armband to Sonnet. I wouldn't be surprised if you don't have Germa or Sonnet in there. I think it'd probably be Coffey. Yeah, it's got to be, right?
Coffey or Biondolo, maybe.
Sure.
I could see Hayes playing Abello and Sams, maybe giving Germa a break. I could see Moultrie starting. I could see Yasmin starting. Emma Sears probably, and then giving that whole attack a little bit of a refresh.
Sure.
I had but an interesting, how close do you think, let's say Trinity Rodman comes back. We're seeing what Michelle Cooper is able to do. Mm-hmm. How do you see the battle at right wing? I mean, obviously Trinity Rodman was one of the best players in the world, but Cooper's got a very unique skill set and also fits in really, really well. Whether you're thinking about that right-hand side with Patterson to Cooper, devastating. Cooper plays a really good, opposite wing from Thompson. Like you could see they were hitting balls over the top to each other. They're just, they just make you defend that entire third of the field because they're so fast and they're so fluid in their movement. This is the one spot, Cooper and Rodman, where I think we could be heading towards a spot where Emma Hayes has some tough decisions to make, especially if Cooper continues to ascend. And I think we're still 2 years out from the World Cup, so there's a lot of time for some evolution here. But I'm starting to, look at that right wing spot and be like, getting interesting out there.
I think Michelle Cooper will be one of the more devastating subs in the world at that point. I just think and I mean, we talk about Michelle Cooper a lot. I love her game. We talked about her last NWSL season, where my note from the Seattle Reign FC Kansas City Current match was Michelle Cooper will run your ass over. She won over my my footballing heart in that match. You cannot, in good conscience, not start Trinity Rodman if she's healthy and ready to play. And then by no means is that a slight to Michelle Cooper. It's just kind of bad luck in that case. And maybe you look for another spot to put Cooper, but you can't not play Rodman when she's at her peak, man. She's too devastating of a player.
Yeah, no, I hear that. We're just getting to that point now. I think the early part of Emma Hayes' tenure was, hey, let's introduce some new players. Let's get some new faces on here, especially coming off the Vlatko 23 World Cup. And now we're starting to see some of these players blooming. And now you're just like, oh, man, I don't want to see a lineup without Thompson in there, without Cooper in there, without Patterson or Hutton. I mean, these players are really starting to come into their own. I'll be interested. The Canada match, I think, is going to be a huge one from an evolution standpoint. That's going to be a great benchmark type game. I think we can learn a good bit, and I'm really interested to see, does Emma Hayes put forth that first team out there versus Canada?
That's going to be really interesting to see. Emma Hayes seems to have walked into this job, and I don't think anybody's really that surprised by it, but she seemed to walk into this job with an understanding of the gravity of it, of the history of it. And I mean, we saw her work in the WSL. She seems to like to bash the skulls in of her rivals. And so I think you're probably onto something of, this is the team geographically, alongside Mexico that's closest to us. But obviously Canada's program probably has more investment. I don't want to paint with a super broad brush, but I believe it does. They're closer to the USA in the FIFA World Rankings for sure.
Yeah.
And Mexico has a good squad, but I think Emma Hayes is gonna walk into this and say, here's our closest rival by proximity and by ranking. Let's go out there and show them we run this thing.
And I'm glad you called out Emma Hayes specifically on that point because, sports fandom, there's a lot of impatience. I think the first half a dozen Emma Hayes performances, there's some 1-0s in there, and there's some like some kind of underwhelming performances. You're just like, I don't know, I was hoping for more. And like logically, cognitively, you need to be a little bit more patient. It's going to take some time. This is the international team. It's not like she's with these players week in or day in, day out. It's like a little window here, a little window there. But I mean, to her credit, every window there's been at least a step forward, a step and a half forward, new stuff, new players, new things. We're just like, oh, we're taking this into the next window. Like, this player is good. These two players work really well together. We're keeping this. And I think every window, there's just, she's learning more. She's utilizing more. These players are growing. It's I don't want to get too too hyped up, but I'm very encouraged, man. I think like if this team comes out and Canada plays a real lineup and USA plays a real lineup and it's a big score line, like a 3-1 and like, okay, this wasn't really a close matchup. That's going to say quite a bit.
It's a great call by you. And I think if it is, then I think eyes are already turning to the 2027 World Cup. And now all the European teams, obviously, they have a massive tournament in the Euros, a ton of history, just like the weight of that trophy. And a lot can change in 2 years, but I don't think so much could possibly change in 2 years to where if they go out there and smash Canada and the rotation looks like it's getting more set, and you think about Sophie Wilson is coming back, Trinity Rodman is coming back, you don't know what's going to happen with Mal Swanson, and you think about all these other great players who are developing, that USA-Spain matchup, that any USA-England matchup, that's going to loom super large in the 2027 World Cup, and I think it's exciting to even think about now, but Emma Hayes would probably look at us and say, shut your pie holes. One match at a time, one window at a time. We got to build this thing to even before we start talking about that.
Yep.
But not us though. We don't have to worry about that. We talk about it now.
No. Shit, we'll talk about the 2031 World Cup. I don't care.
She's not the boss of us.
Episode calendar. So between now and 2031, let's see. We won't be back before for the next Ireland matchup, but we will be back this weekend with our mega UEFA Women's Euro 2025 preview. We're going to basically go through each of the 16 teams vying for that big, heavy trophy that my guy was talking about. So definitely stick around for that. Make sure you're subscribed. We also launched our USWNT collection alongside our NWSL collection. Those are all visible on our link tree. Go check those out if you're in the market for some awesome gear. All right, man. I think we did it. Anything else you want to hit before we get out of here?
I think that's it for a 4-0 victory over the Republic of Ireland on a Thursday night in June. I think we covered pretty much everything. But whatever we missed, please let us know in the comments. We're always willing to get that Emma Hayes halftime feedback.
Love it, man. Learning podcast. Definitely keep letting us know. And with that said, this has been another episode of Into the Channel. Thank you for hanging out. If you enjoyed the show or love women's football as much as your boys do, make sure you're kicking with us each and every single week. Like if you liked, subscribe, follow YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to watch or listen. Leave us a review over your favorite podcast app. We want to hear from you. We love hearing from you. Links to all of our socials, except one in the show notes of this episode. And a big thank you to my co-host as well, Mr. Granigo, for being the Alyssa to my Giselle, the Trinity Rodman to my Michelle Cooper. Kind of go on and on, but you already know what time it is. The ultimate teammate. I appreciate you, bro.
Likewise, buddy. We appreciate everybody rocking with us. Super nice comments. You guys are as I always say, so we've somehow found the nicest corner of the internet. We appreciate you hanging out with us. And yeah, we're looking forward to these Euros. Tap in if you're strictly a USWNT fan. Think about the World Cup, like we're saying. Don't take it one match at a time. You want to see what the competition is going to look like. The Euros look like they're going to be an absolute banger. Please come kick it with us. We'd be happy to have you, and we will see you all next time.